The class of 2020 was loaded with several prominent and intriguing players. The top 10 in particular is filled with a diverse mix, ranging from those that are seen as franchise cornerstones for their NBA teams, and those whose names you completely forgot about. With it now being 4 years since these ESPN rankings were set, I thought it would be fun to look back on the top 10 players in the class and answer the question, where are they now? Real quickly before I dive into the top 10, if you'd like this type of sports content, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a like on the video. It really helps me out and would mean a lot. Also be sure to check out my other videos on the channel as well. Now without further ado, let's dive in. The number 10 player in the class of 2020 was Terrence Clark, a small forward out of Brewster Academy who measured in at 6'7", 190 pounds. During his senior season, Clark averaged 18.3 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 3 assists while leading his squad to a 34-3 record. He would end up signing with the Kentucky Wildcats, where early on during his freshman season, Clark flashed his offensive potential, averaging 9.6 points on 43% shooting. He also displayed his ability to score at all 3 levels and create his own shot off the dribble. Injuries would unfortunately derail his freshman campaign, as he would only play in 8 games due to a nagging ankle injury. Despite playing in only 8 games, many mock drafts had him projected as a mid-late first-round pick, so Clark would declare for the draft shortly following his freshman season. Things would take a turn for the worst, however, as a month after declaring his intentions to enter the draft, Clark would tragically be killed in a car accident in Los Angeles. The news sent shockwaves through the sports world, and countless fans and prayers offered their condolences. It was a tragic end for a young man with so much potential and talent, and unfortunately, we as basketball fans will never get to see how Clark would have been at his full potential. Rest in peace. Coming in at number 9 was Greg Brown, a 6'8", 205-pound power forward out of Vandergrift High School in Texas. In his senior season, Brown would be named Texas Gatorade Player of the Year, putting up 26.1 points, 13.2 rebounds, and 3.5 blocks a game. Brown possessed insane athleticism and physical intangibles, and scouts were excited about his potential to be a force in the paint on both the offensive and defensive ends. He would eventually commit to the University of Texas, and in his freshman season would put up a respectable stat line of 9.3 points on 42% shooting and 6.2 rebounds. After declaring for the NBA draft following his freshman season, he'd be selected with the 43rd pick by the New Orleans Pelicans, but was immediately traded to the Portland Trail Blazers. His NBA career thus far has been rather quiet to say the least. He had a decent rookie season with the Blazers, putting up 4.7 points and 2.8 rebounds in 13 minutes per game. But in his second season, Brown would see his minutes take a huge dip. He was eventually waived by the Blazers and then picked up by the Ontario Clippers of the G League. Following his season in the G League, Brown would be picked up by the Mavericks on a 2-way contract, where he's overall been a non-contributor. Overall, his time in the league thus far has been rather underwhelming, but he is still very young at only 22 years old and has always possessed great athleticism, so it's not too late to turn his career around. Zaire Williams was the number 8 ranked player in the class of 2020 and is one of 2 players in the top 10 that went to Sierra Canyon High School. Due to California transfer rules, Williams was actually forced to miss the first 10 games of his senior season. Once he returned to the court, however, the 6'8", 180-pound small forward would go on to average 15 points, 7.9 rebounds, and 3.6 assists per game. Williams would wind up signing with Stanford University, being the highest-rated recruit in the program's history. During his freshman season, Williams showed off his natural scoring ability, scoring double digits in over half of his games. The only problem, however, was his lack of efficiency while doing it, as he shot just 39% from the field and a measly 29% from 3. Despite his inefficiencies, NBA scouts were high on Williams for his size, scoring ability, and smooth shooting stroke. After declaring for the NBA draft, Williams would be drafted with the 10th pick by the Memphis Grizzlies. In his rookie season, Williams was a solid contributor in the Grizz rotation, averaging 21 minutes and 8.1 points per game. Despite struggling from 3, his overall field goal percentage was pretty solid, and he looked like he could be a key piece of the Grizzlies' future going forward. Following his rookie season, however, his inefficiency concerns that he showed at Stanford began showing up again, as his percentage dropped to 42% his second season, and now in his third year is shooting only 39%. This is definitely something he has to improve upon if he wants to continue playing meaningful minutes in the NBA. He is still very young with a lot of potential, so if he manages to improve his efficiency numbers, he definitely has the chance to be a solid contributor in the league for years to come. Checking in at number 7 is teammate of Zaire at Sierra Canyon, BJ Boston Jr., or Brandon Boston Jr., whatever you want to call him. Interestingly enough, BJ was also listed as a small forward like Zaire was, but he measures in a little bit smaller at 6'6", 175 pounds. During his freshman season at Sierra Canyon, BJ would average almost 20 points per game and would eventually sign with the Kentucky Wildcats, teaming up with Terrence Clark, who we talked about earlier in the video. BJ's freshman year at the Wildcats was actually very reminiscent of Zaire's season at Stanford, in the sense that he flashed the ability to be a high-level scorer, but he was also highly inefficient. In fact, BJ was actually more inefficient statistically than Zaire, shooting only 35% from the field and 30% from deep. BJ would still end up declaring for the draft after his freshman season, but unlike Zaire, NBA scouts weren't quite as high on BJ's size and physical tools. but he still did flash a lot of potential as a scorer, so he was picked up by the Grizzlies with the 51st pick, and was immediately traded to the Los Angeles Clippers. His play in the NBA thus far has basically paralleled his college career. He's been pretty inefficient, but every now and then he'll give the Clips a decent offensive performance. I kinda doubt the Clippers see him as a key piece moving forward, but as is the theme with most of the other guys on the list so far, he's young and always has the potential to turn things around. The number 6 player in 2020 was Jalen Suggs from Minnehaha Academy. Standing at 6'4" and weighing 195 pounds, Suggs possessed great size for the point guard position to go along with a well-rounded game. In the senior season, he had a very impressive stat line of 23.3 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 5 assists, and almost 4 steals per game. In addition to his basketball talents, Suggs was also a gifted and heavily recruited player on the gridiron as well as a quarterback, boasting offers from schools like Georgia, Ohio State, Iowa, and many others. Despite his impressive offer list for football, Suggs was always a basketball player at heart, and thus would eventually sign with Gonzaga, becoming the program's highest-rated recruit ever. During his freshman season, Suggs would play a monumental role on a Gonzaga team that would go undefeated in the regular season and make a March Madness run to the finals, one of the games in which Suggs would hit a game-winning shot from half court. Overall, Suggs had a very good all-around season, averaging 14.4 points on 50% shooting, 5.3 rebounds, and 4.5 assists. Suggs would declare for the NBA draft and be picked 5th overall by the Orlando Magic, and was seen by many as the future point guard that the Magic could build around for years to come. Despite his high expectations, Suggs struggled offensively his first 2 years as he was plagued by poor shooting numbers. However, so far in his 3rd year, Suggs finally seems to be settling in offensively as he has been much more efficient across the board. Additionally, one thing Suggs was always able to hang his hat on, even when he was struggling offensively, was being one of the best defensive point guards in the entire NBA. Pair his improving offensive game with his elite defense, and you've got a guy that the Magic can definitely build around, and I'm very excited to see how Suggs continues to develop going forward. Up next at number 5 is Scotty Barnes, hailing from the prominent basketball powerhouse Montverde Academy. Barnes measured in at 6'7", 210 pounds, and was the number 1 power forward in his class. In his senior season at Montverde Academy, Barnes would prove to be a do-it-all player, averaging 11.6 points, 6.5 boards, and 4.6 assists per game. Barnes would take his talents to Florida State, where he would go on to win ACC Freshman of the Year, averaging 10.3 points, 4.1 assists, 4 rebounds, and 1.5 steals. Barnes stood out to multiple NBA scouts for his unique combination of physical tools and skills, and also for his defensive potential, in large part due to his 7'3" wingspan. Barnes was drafted with the 4th overall pick by the Toronto Raptors and immediately established himself as a future star in his first season, averaging 15.3 points, 7.5 rebounds, and taking home Rookie of the Year. Over his next 2 seasons, Barnes would continue to show growth and improvement, and now in his 3rd season is averaging 20.3 points, 8.3 rebounds, and looks primed to be Toronto's franchise cornerstone for the foreseeable future. He's an extremely talented player and no doubt will be a multiple-time All-Star during his career. One of the more interesting players in the 2020 class was Jonathan Kuminga, coming in at number 4. Kuminga was originally a part of the 2021 class but would end up reclassifying to 2020. In his final high school season at the Patrick School, Kuminga would average 16.2 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 3.7 assists per game. After high school, Kuminga would actually make the decision to forego college and instead join the NBA's Developmental League, commonly referred to as the G League, as a member of the G League Ignite. He was actually considered a bit of a trailblazer in this regard, as choosing the G League over college is one of the new routes to the NBA that hadn't really been tested before by highly rated players. As such, this is viewed as a highly risky move for Kuminga, but would end up working out for him as he would be drafted 7th overall by the Warriors after averaging 15.8 points and 7.2 rebounds during his lone season in the G League. Moving into his time in the NBA, apart from having one of the best nicknames in all the sports, Kuminga for the most part was pretty unnoteworthy during his first 2 seasons. He wasn't a bad player by any means, it just seemed that he was struggling to find his role within the Warriors team. However, now in his 3rd season, it seems that Kuminga is finally starting to settle in and live up to his lottery pick expectations. He's averaging a career-best 14.3 points and 4.5 rebounds while shooting 52% from the field. He is without a doubt establishing himself as a quality NBA player, and with so many questions revolving around the future of the Warriors roster moving forward, I'm very interested to see how Kuminga fits into the team's future plans. Moving into the top 3 now, we have Evan Mobley, a 7-foot, 205-pound center from Rancho Christian School. In his last high school season, Mobley put up 20.6 points, 10.4 rebounds, 4.7 blocks, and 4.6 assists per game. He would also be named California's Gatorade Player of the Year for the 2nd year in a row. Mobley would play his college ball at USC and would have a stellar freshman season, averaging 16.4 points, 8.7 rebounds, and almost 3 blocks a game. Additionally, he would sweep the awards podium, winning Pac-12 Conference Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and Freshman of the Year, the first from a power conference to accomplish this feat since Anthony Davis in 2012. He was viewed by scouts as a very polished and high-floor prospect, so the Cleveland Cavaliers would end up drafting him with the 3rd pick. So far in his first 3 seasons, he has pretty much been just that, very polished and was an immediate contributor. He's putting up a very respectable stat line this season of 15.7 points, 10.7 rebounds, and 57% shooting to go along with his elite defense. He has definitely shown signs of improvement each season, upping his shooting percentages and rebounding, but I do question a little bit how much more room he has to grow and if he'll ever take that next step to be a bona fide star in the NBA. I don't want to take any credit away from him though, as he's still a really good player and without a doubt a major piece for the Cavs going forward. Coming in at number 2 is Cade Cunningham, the number 1 point guard in the class that possesses rare size for the position at 6'7", 215 pounds. Cade attended Montverde Academy alongside previously discussed Scotty Barnes and would average 13.9 points, 6.4 rebounds, and 4.2 boards. He held offers from all the top programs in the country but would end up signing with Oklahoma State. In his lone college season, Cade dominated, averaging 20 points and 6.2 rebounds to go along with Big 12 Conference Player of the Year. Scouts were enamored with Cade's size at the point guard position and his ability to score and facilitate at a high level. Given his rare size and immense potential, Cade would be selected with the first overall pick by the Detroit Pistons. His time in the NBA has definitely been filled with some ups and downs. He has certainly shown throughout his first 3 seasons that he has the talent and skills to be a superstar franchise player. However, he's also dealt with his fair share of hardships, including injuries and also facing criticisms for basically being the face of a franchise that is having a historically bad season. This has led to some people questioning whether or not Cade is really a franchise cornerstone player, which I personally think that talk is complete nonsense, as he's only in his 3rd season, leading a team that is in the middle of a hard rebuild, and despite that is still playing very well. Give Cade and the Pistons a few more seasons to improve and grow, and I'm confident that they will be a really solid team in the future. Last but not least, the number 1 player in the class of 2020 was Jalen Green out of Prolific Prep. He went viral during his time in high school for his insane athleticism and electric play style. I personally remember seeing this dude's highlights all over social media at the time. During his final season at Prolific Prep, the 6'5", 180-pound shooting guard would average a ridiculous 31.5 points per game to go along with 7.5 rebounds and 5 assists. Following his senior season, Green would choose to go the same route as Jonathan Kuminga for going college and joining the G League, with the two actually teaming up on the G League Ignite. In his lone season in the G League, Green would average almost 18 points and 4.1 rebounds. Green's performance, along with his physical tools and skill set, would get him drafted 2nd overall by the Houston Rockets, with the expectation that he would be their franchise player as the team looked to move on from the James Harden era. With that in mind, the attempt to build around Green and the rest of the Rockets' young core has been shaky to say the least, as they finished near the bottom of the league every season since Green arrived. Green is the definition of a volume shooter. He can rack up a ton of points, but he's going to need an excessive amount of shots to do it. He isn't particularly getting any better either, as his shooting percentages have actually continued to go down each season. He'll give you a couple of insane highlights and will have his occasional splash game, but overall, I think he's just too inconsistent to be relied upon as the franchise player. With all this being said though, Green's talent cannot be denied, and if he gets the right pieces around him and starts to be a bit smarter with his shot selection, he certainly has the potential to be a star player in the league. So there you have it. Top 10 players from the 2020 recruiting class and where they are now. There are definitely some guys in here that I totally forgot about, and it was nice being able to do some catching up on them. I also think it's pretty cool that the top 3 players from this class would end up being the top 3 picks in the next draft, although being in a little bit of a different order. Say what you want about recruiting rankings and stars, but ESPN was definitely cooking when they made this particular ranking. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like for the algorithm and subscribe for more content. Also, feel free to comment down below any ideas for videos you want me to do. This is HTP signing off. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm out. Peace.